If you own an 80, you know what these are. Looks like we're going to have fun this weekend. What do you think? Man, I really want those. You know, 35-inch tall tires don't seem that big until you take them off. That's waist high. Tomorrow morning. So that's what you don't want to see when you take your axle out. That is diff fluid, and it's completely washed out the grease inside the burr field. The last time I did this job, when I replaced the burr fields, I used the Marlin Crawler Eco Seals, which work great. But I think my problem is that. So as you can see, this mark right here, it's a little bit of a dish inside my axle. That's exactly where the seal rides, and I'm guessing that the original seal probably wore into it a little bit. So really the only fix for that is to either replace the axle, or an old mechanic's trick is that when you tap the seal in, you just go enough to clear that fillet, so basically you're not going all the way flush. And what that'll do is it'll actually cause that radial seal to ride in a different spot on the axle. So we'll give that a shot until we put lockers in the truck, because then we're going to put different axles in anyway. It's like a bomb went off. Alright, so my old wiper seals are replaced. Now down to tightening the wheel bearing. Stay tuned and I'll show you guys a trick. Alright, so what you're going to do is take your socket, you're going to run your nut in, and you're going to spin your hub, just like this, as you're tightening up on it. Sometimes you just got to get a little snug, spin it, snug, spin it. You're basically going to run this thing down to the point where you can't run it down anymore. But like that, keep spinning it, and then you're going to break it free, almost a half turn, spin it again, and then set your ratchet to tighten again. And what you're going to do is really light force till you feel it, just kind of stop, and then just a little bit past that. And that should set your base setting. The next thing I'm going to show you is a trick that I learned from Terrain Tamer on the internet. Alright, so next thing you do is you put your tire on. We're going to take a couple lug nuts and we're going to put them on hand tight. Just so it snugs the wheel on. Just like that. And the trick from Terrain Tamer is, with them hand tight, you take a maul, and I don't have a maul, so all I have is this really heavy duty axe, and you smack it on the four axes. And after you do that, you can check it, and we've got plate. So now what you do is you put your socket back on, and you snug her up just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to go tight, and back off again, and then I'm going to come back forward a little tighter. And then we recheck it. And that's it. So then you put your lock star on, and then you put your other nut on, tighten it down, bend your tabs over, and you're good to go. Okay, so the second nut you put on after you put the star lock washer on, and once you got that on, you just snug it by hand. You don't have to be super tight. And right here, I bent one tab forward towards the inside to lock the inner nut. And then what you're looking for is a tab that's on a flat for the outer nut, and that one right there is what we're going to go with. So we're just going to take a screwdriver and bend that over like that. Just like that. And that will capture this nut, and the other one will capture the inside nut, so the two of them together won't back off. And that star washer has a notch on it. And when you put it on the spindle, you'll notice that there's a groove right here in the spindle. Alright, so once you take the wheel back off, last thing we have to do is put this outer flange back on. It's got its own gasket. Set that on there like that. And then this has got two holes in the center that line up with these dowel pins. It's pretty simple. Where it gets tricky is lining up the splines with the axle shaft. So you kind of have to rotate this a little bit. And the next part that's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Sometimes you get a little tap. And you notice that the axle is not out, or you can put the C-clip on it. So what you usually do is you can thread a bolt in here, or you can use a screwdriver sometimes. Just pull out on the axle while you're pushing on the flange, and that C-clips out. And I'm actually going to try to put that on before I tighten down the flange. So that's just a C-clip. Use a pair of pliers like this. Set it in there. Try not to drop it. Just like that. It should sit in that groove. You should be able to spin it just like that. Then, the hardware, you're going to have a bunch of these tapered washers. And they slide on the nuts. And sometimes they go on, sometimes they don't. You just give them a little tap. Notice I'm using a brass hammer so I don't mess up the threads. And then behind that, there's going to be a flat washer, just like that. And then it's going to have a nut, just like that. So we'll tap this on a little bit further, so we can at least get the nut started. And sometimes if you use a small socket, like a 10mm socket, you can just tap that in further like that, kind of seat it. Take your nut, put it on, and then you continue doing that for the rest of them. Alright, so once the taper washers, the regular washers, and the nuts are on, these get torqued down to 26 foot-pounds. You kind of want to go in a little bit of a star pattern, bringing them in evenly. Another trick to this is you can actually put the wheel back on, set it back on it, on the ground, and then you don't have to fight the rotor moving on you, but I haven't put the caliper back on yet, so I'm just trying to get this done quick. Actually, what I'm going to do here is this for a little bit of leverage. Now that that's on, last thing to put on this part would be the dust cap. Whatever you do, don't do that, because all you're going to do is cave the cap. So usually what I'll do is take a screwdriver on the edge like this and kind of walk it. Just like that. All I got left to do is put the caliper on. We're all done.